Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for joining this nutrition series that I've been putting together. This is our second video of the series. If you haven't watched the first one, check that one out first. We talk about how to simply calculate your maintenance calories, and you do need to know how to do that before we jump into our next topic, okay? So our next topic is going to be the healthy rate for fat loss, okay? Um, just to kind of give you a background, when I was first starting to lose weight and I was very, very heavy, the first thing I wanted to do was try to lose weight as fast as possible. And the only way that I thought of doing that was to be working out every single day and to be eating as little as possible so I can get my body to burn off all of that fat. Granted, it kind of worked, but it took me a lot longer to understand that I needed to be eating enough and losing at a good, healthy fat loss rate to keep the muscles on my body while at the same time still burning fat. So what I ended up seeing was I was having a harder time losing my fat, and I was having a harder time keeping my muscle on my body. I was having harder time keeping up my strength. Right. So this is what I wanted to teach you guys today, because there is a safe rate to lose fat, and then based off of that, you can calculate how long it's going to take you to get to your fat loss or weight goal based off of that, while maintaining the muscle, which is what we're working so hard together for. Is we want to make sure, if you want to stay toned, you got to be building muscle, and you got to have that muscle stay on your body. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. The first topic that we want to address is, as I've mentioned, losing fat too fast or losing weight too fast can be extremely detrimental. And we'll touch on some of the symptoms that can be caused by losing weight too fast. And those are very, very important for you guys to consider. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that we are going to be working off of a very simple kind of given or constant, we'll say, but it's a little bit more variable than that. But we want to play around with 1 pound of fat basically equaling 3,500 calories. Okay. So if you want to take that literally, if you wanted to lose 1 pound of fat per week, you would need to not consume or have a deficit of 3,500 calories per week in order to lose a pound of fat per week. But we'll get more into that. We're going to use my example from day one's topic of conversation, the maintenance calories, and we'll use my weight for it. So if I'm a 183-pound male, multiply that by 10 and multiply it by the high end sedentary constant, which again, if you haven't watched video one, go ahead and check that out. I talk about how to gauge your activity level, or your activity multiplier, as they call it. So I'm multiplying mine by 1.6. So it's saying that my maintenance calorie, basically to stay at 183 pounds, I would need to be consuming about 2,928 calories per day. Okay. So we're going to work based off of that number. Now, the 3,500 calorie deficit, if you really think about it, right? So if I need to be eating just about 3,000 calories per day to stay my body weight, and I want to get super aggressive and say, you know what, I'm just not going to eat, I want to lose pounds as fast as possible, I basically have to skip my entire day of eating just to try to lose 1 pound per day. So what does that mean? Trying to lose 1 pound per day is just not reasonable. It's not realistic, and it's not a safe way to go about it. Okay. So the 3,500 calorie deficit is more manageable over 7 days. That is a good stretch of time and a safe deficit that you can use in losing weight without it feeling too extreme, while at the same time your body is able to stick with the healthy rate so that you're not losing your muscle and all the work that you're putting in. Okay. So if we do that calculation, we're trying to subtract 3,500 calories per week, right? Which is divided by 7 days. You're looking at a deficit of 500 calories per day. So that means you'd basically have to eat less than 500 calories, or 500 calories less per day, in order to lose 1 pound per week. Okay. And that means you'd have to do that consistently over 7 days. All right. Now, what we need to find out, though, is that if that minus 500 calories per day is at our safe rate to lose that fat while at the same time stay with the muscle. But before we get into that, and we'll work on those calculations, the first thing I want you to know is why it's so important not to lose weight so fast. And I know that this is kind of like what's the word? This is where it can get a little bit tricky with people's mentality on fat loss and their fitness journey. We live in a very quick result environment. where we want our results fast, we want them now, but unfortunately our bodies just don't work that way. And you have to really come to that understanding that I know, even though I might want a bigger chest tomorrow, there's no way that I can get a bigger chest tomorrow. Even if I want to lose any remnants of love handles that I have on my body, there's no way that I can do that by tomorrow. There's no quick fix for this aside from like any kind of surgeries, right? And we're going to avoid surgeries at all costs. All right. So the reason I want you to understand that is I want you to start getting in your head a healthy mentality on why it's not good to eat so little just to lose fat. Okay. So losing weight through an extreme deficit can cause the following symptoms. Okay. My primary source for this is the Muscle and Strength Pyramid book on nutrition that's written by Eric Helms, Valdez, and Morgan. You can look into that outside on the web. It's a great resource, and he has great videos that talk about basically exactly what I'm doing now, and what I'm talking to you about. So when we talk about an extreme deficit and what it can cause, the first and most important thing is that it causes muscle loss. All right. So if you're a male and you're looking to gain muscle mass, the last thing you want to do is take your deficit down to something like 15 to 1600 calories per day. First of all, you're not going to have enough energy to maintain your workouts, and you're going to lose your strength that you've been trying to build, and you're going to lose the muscle that you're trying to build in the first place. So the first thing is developing that relationship and nutrition relationship so that you're eating enough, you're eating the right things, you're eating the right amount of protein. That way your body has enough fuel to get to the goals that you want, especially if you want to gain muscle. Okay. So we talked about the muscle loss. We talked about loss in strength, which is another key thing. So if you're trying to be stronger, ladies, if you're trying to be stronger with your legs, or you're trying to be stronger with your back, or you're just trying to be stronger all around, eating too little can be counterproductive to what you're trying to achieve. Okay. Another really important symptom is the lower metabolism. So if you're not eating enough, it's basically like you're taking the burners down in your system. um, the flames are not hot enough to burn the calories that you need to burn the fat off your body. So what happens is that you're actually slowing down your fat burn. So while you're losing your muscle, you're also slowing down at the pace at which you're burning fat, which is also counterproductive. So when you're thinking you're doing something that's going to make you lose weight faster by eating less, you're actually making it almost twice as hard to lose the fat, and you're also losing your muscle if I haven't beat that down enough yet. Okay. Some other symptoms is, like I said, low energy. So if you're not feeling like you're having enough energy to stay awake during the day, stay working, find time to work out and get your workouts in, you could likely not be eating enough. Um, Nutrition or nutrient deficiencies, which is super important. We have micronutrients as well that are important to our bodies. If you're not eating enough food, there's probably a good chance that you're not getting the micronutrients in. So if you're not eating enough fruits and vegetables, if you're not eating anything that has the vitamins that you need in your body, you can start to have deficiencies, which start to affect your health in other ways as well, and also makes you prone to other diseases. For my men here, and also for women, this can cause hair loss. If you're eating too little and you want to keep your hair on your body, eating too little can also affect hair loss. And there have been cases where people have experienced hair loss because of too much of a deficit in their calories. If you're trying to get pregnant, or if you're trying to have a baby, this can also cause fertility issues. So you want to make sure that you're eating enough to stay healthy. Most importantly, all your recovery for your muscles happens in your sleep. All of our energy, kind of like our recharge, happens during our sleep. If we're not eating enough, we could have sleep issues. And you might experience it as obvious as, when you go to bed and you're feeling extremely hungry, right? You're irritable. You start getting more anxiety because you're not getting enough sleep, or you're feeling like you're not doing something right, or you're not, managing your things properly. It could all come down to not eating enough. Okay. Now, so we want to be in a safe rate of nutrition, and that is what we're going to figure out right now. Okay, guys, so we're back to it. Just cleared up the board a little bit so you can see a couple of calculations that we're going to be doing here. Okay, so now we're actually getting into the meat of this, which is the healthy rates. Okay, so according to the Muscle and Strength Pyramid book, you don't want to lose more than 0.5 to 1% of your body weight at a time, okay, per week. Okay. So that's what you want to really kind of keep in mind. So the way that you would calculate that is you would take your weight of your body and you would take that 0.5% to kind of get the low end, or and then multiply by 1% of your body weight to get the high end. Okay, so for example, in this case, 183 times 0.5% is about minus 0.915 pounds. Okay, and then if you do that 183 times 1%, that's minus 1.83 pounds. Okay, so that's kind of our range. You wouldn't necessarily want to lose more than 1.83 pounds, and you probably don't want to go losing less because it's not going to really benefit you less than 0.915 pounds. So that's our range. 0.915 to 1.83 is kind of the range that we're playing with as far as the loss. Now we need to convert that into calories. So we know how many calories we need to subtract from our maintenance number to get a calorie range and kind of understand how much you should be eating to be able to lose that within that range of weight loss. Okay, so what we did, remember, we took 3,500, which is a pound of fat, and divided that by 7 days for a week, right? So we know that we want to basically be looking at 500 calories per day is what we're playing around with as far as a deficit. So what we want to do is we want to take 0.915 times those 500 calories per the day, and that is basically minus 457.5 calories per day is 0.5% of your body weight loss in fat, or 1.83 times the 500 calorie in the day, which is minus 915 calories per day. Okay, so these two numbers are important because these are the two calorie numbers that we're going to subtract from the maintenance calorie number that we got on day one, or the video number one. Okay, so that's how we find our safe range. Basically, we take the calorie, our maintenance calorie, minus 457.5, which will give us our high calorie end, which is 2,470 calories, and 2928, which is our maintenance again, minus the higher end, 915, which is 2,013 calories. So what is this? Basically, this is our range to eat per day. This is our calorie range to eat per day to basically be able to lose about 0.915 to 1.83 pounds per week. Okay, so obviously the less you're eating here, the more it corresponds to the higher weight loss, right? Versus if you're eating a little bit on the higher range, that means you're going to be losing fat a little bit less, right? So between 2,470 and 2013, and that's just basically for my weight for 183. So what you would want to do is you would want to take your weight and calculate these numbers and kind of get a nice safe range so you can get a picture of what to safely eat. So what can we pull from this, right? I think the most important thing is that this kind of paints a clear picture as to where you stand. If you are just getting into the groove of logging what you eat and logging your food, this might completely blow away your perceptions on how much you've been eating. You may have talked to a friend, or you may have known somebody else that says, hey, you know, I'm eating 1,600 calories per day to be on a diet. And then you look at your range and I'm like, wow, if I eat 1,600 calories per day, I'm probably going to be hungry because that's almost like less than half of what I need to be eating on my higher end. I'm probably definitely going to be losing muscle, right? Because that's outside of my muscle maintenance range. And I'm probably just going to be miserable. I'm probably going to be encountering all of those side effects and all of those symptoms that I was talking before if I'm eating so little, being irritable, slower metabolism, losing my muscle. So that's when I can start to say, okay, well, maybe 1,600 calories is not for me. That's good for that person. I'm going to play around with this and see how I feel. And that's the next most important part, is to use this range to kind of eat to how you feel. You can develop meal plans that are catered to these particular calorie ranges, and based off of how you currently eat, for example, and say, okay, I'm currently eating about 2,200 calories and I feel satiated, I feel full, I feel strong, I feel like I have energy. So I'm right in the middle and I feel good. Maybe I'll take it up a notch and I'll subtract 200 calories and I'll try this low end and see how I feel. You know, and that's when we start getting into cutting phases, where we start talking about, okay, well, maybe we go at the lower end of our safe range so that we can lose weight a little bit faster, but we only do that for a temporary period of time because we want this to be sustainable, okay? And obviously, if you start going above your maintenance calorie range, that's when you start playing with gaining weight. All right, so that basically explains the healthy rates, okay? That's what I wanted to get into today. I'll talk a little bit more about calorie deficits later on and how to kind of play around with that in cutting phases and how to calculate those as well. But right now, what I think is important to take away is that if you want to understand what is a safe range of calories to eat so that you're losing weight effectively, remember, take your weight, multiply it by 0.5%, multiply it by 1% to calculate how many pounds you can lose. Then multiply those numbers by 500 calories, because that's the 500 calories per day we're trying to safely play around with as far as burning a pound of fat per week, right? That'll give you a calorie range per day. And then subtract those calorie ranges from your maintenance calorie that you calculated in video 1, and that'll give you a safe calorie range to play around with. I'd love to know what you guys calculated. I'd love to know if there's any kind of epiphanies that you've had from this, or if you have any questions, please reach out to me. But this ends video 2. Again, we talked about healthy fat loss rates. Stay tuned for more nutrition videos coming your way. Thank you so much for your time.